K2 Weather every hour is brought to you by Teplic Laser Vision, your vision for the future.
On World News tonight, President Bush sends his budget to the Congress. He upsets his adversaries and some of his friends as well. Mr. Bush still can't get the Navy crew back from China. Today, the frustration is showing. With taxes due in a week, why is the IRS losing so much money it should be collecting? And living up to the superlatives, that is Tiger Woods.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings.
Good evening, everyone. We'll get to the frustration with China in a moment, but we're going to begin tonight with this. This is the federal budget, which President Bush sent to the Congress today, though Congress just happens to be out of town. This is the analytical perspectives on the budget, and this little thing here is the Citizen's Guide. But here are the details of how Mr. Bush would like to spend $1.9 trillion in the next fiscal year, if he has his way. But it's a much more important document because all of these numbers represent what the new president thinks about the size of government and the importance of what it does. In other words, it's also a very political document as well. We'll come at it from several ways tonight. We'll go first to the White House, where ABC's Terry Moran is at his usual post. This budget is in many ways, is it not, Terry, a portrait of Mr. Bush?
It is, Peter. That massive document you have there is very revealing of President Bush. It reveals his basic fiscal conservatism, as well as his willingness to pick a fight or two on some very popular programs.
Secondly, all of us.
It was George W. Bush, the budget hawk, on full display at a cabinet meeting to roll out his plan.
Washington's known for its pork. This budget funds our needs without the fat. It also represents a new way of doing business in Washington and a new way of thinking.
That new thinking could be a hard sell in Congress. Democrats warn the president's budget contains cuts guaranteed to start fights on Capitol Hill. A $186 million cut, 50%, would fall on solar and renewable energy programs, even though the president has declared the nation faces an energy crisis. Cut by $25 million, or 15%, funding for training pediatricians in children's hospitals. And the COPS program, a favorite of President Clinton's, which provides money to communities to hire police, faces a $270 million, or 46% cut.
This is an extremely popular program. I think it's helped us reduce the crime rate.
Congressman John Spratt, the ranking Democrat on the Budget Committee, says there's one major reason for the cuts.
We found cuts in all of these programs in order to make way for the president's tax cut.
The administration counters it as merely trying to restrain out-of-control government spending from the Clinton years. In the current 2001 budget, they note, discretionary spending grew by 8%. Mr. Bush proposes to cut that in half to a 4% increase, which is still above inflation. And they say there are good reasons for all their cuts. Take the COPS program.
It was entirely explicit at the beginning that this was to be a 3-year program.
The real numbers that the president has to worry about now aren't in the budget, they're in Congress, with both houses so evenly divided. For the president to get what he wants, Peter, he's going to have to convince more than a few Republicans to walk the plank for him on some of these budget cuts.
Precisely, Terry. It's going to be a heck of a fight, and that takes us very quickly to some people who didn't think they should or would walk the plank. They voted for Mr. Bush. They worked to elect Mr. Bush. Here's ABC's John Cochran.
From the White House, George Bush only has to look across the street to find supporters upset with his budget cuts. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce is livid that the budget cut subsidies to American companies trying to compete with foreign outfits.
I would say one man's welfare is another man's livelihood. Without these kinds of supports from our government, we simply will not be able to compete.
Mr. Bush also wants to eliminate federal loan guarantees for buyers of commercial ships built in America. Sources tell ABC News the president ignored an appeal from the leader of his own party in the Senate, Trent Lott from Mississippi, a big shipbuilding state. Lott argued that if shipbuilders go broke, they won't be able to build vessels for the Navy. Shipbuilders say they are stunned that the president turned on them.
I don't think we want to depend on shipbuilders in China to deliver our ships to keep this country and the free world free.
Big business provides big campaign donations to both Republicans and Democrats on Capitol Hill. And the lobbyists we talked to said, look, we love this president on most issues, but when it comes to cutting corporate welfare, we can and will stop him. John Cochran, ABC News, Washington.
Thank you, John. Let's go to Capitol Hill now, where ABC's Linda Douglas is standing by. Linda, the big question for any president is, will his budget survive? First of all, what will the Democrats howl about?
Well, there's already some howling going on here, specifically about the cuts in the environment that Terry was just talking about. Cuts in every agency. They are focusing on that. The environment is popular with the public. Also, the cuts in children's health, cuts in health care for the poor. And the Democrats are betting that people will not want to cut funding for those programs just in order to get a tax cut.
But the president got something of an edge on the Democrats by pushing it up there while they're all out of town.
That was very clever. Even the Democrats concede that. By sending it to Congress when they're all scattered to the winds, you don't have Democrats standing at the microphones, denouncing the cuts, getting on the news shows. So the president's really going to have the stage to himself for the next couple of weeks.
Now talk about Republicans for a moment. It seems they're caught between their president and their own personal interests.
Absolutely. When the president talks about cutting pork, he's talking about cutting those special pet projects in members' home districts, things such as roads and hospitals and colleges and so forth. These are the very difficult things for Republicans to cut, but they may have to give up their home state projects favored by their constituents in order to support their president.
Thanks very much, Linda Douglas on Capitol Hill. There'll be a lag about this now until Congress comes back, or something of a lag, but China, of course, cannot wait. And President Bush said today that relations between China and the U.S. are in danger unless the two countries can reach an agreement to return the Navy crew, which is still being held, and the aircraft. In Buenos Aires today, a Chinese official accompanying President Jiang Zemin on his trip to Latin America said that the latest offers from the United States are unacceptable. So all of that optimism at the end of last week has dissolved. ABC's Martha Raddatz is in Washington tonight. Martha.
Peter, an indication of how the mood has shifted. In addition to planning on trying to release the crew members, there is also planning underway on what to do if they are not released.
Protects children.
The president himself seemed frustrated today as he issued a warning to the Chinese.
All of us around this table understand diplomacy takes time. But there is a point, the longer it goes, there's a point at which our relations with China could become damaged.
U.S. officials had hoped that this standoff would be over by now. ABC News has learned that the diplomatic back and forth has been reduced primarily to the United States sending drafts of a letter of joint understanding to the Chinese, and the Chinese sending it back with negative comments. That and U.S. diplomats being allowed to meet with the 24 crew members again today.
They are in excellent health, their spirits are extremely high, and we had a good conversation for about 40 minutes.
Those conversations have helped the Pentagon gather new information about the collision of the EP-3, which this latest satellite image shows on Hainan Island next to a column of trucks. Pentagon sources say the crew told diplomats that the Chinese fighter jet twice tried to buzz or intercept their EP-3, coming as close as 30 feet in the moments before the accident. On the third pass, sources say, while the U.S. plane maintained its course and speed, the two aircraft collided.
And further irritating the United States, those images of the EP-3 and the trucks next to them, the Pentagon believes they are unloading equipment from the spy plane, Peter.
Thanks, Martha. Martha Raddatz in Washington tonight. Now let's go to China, because Bush administration officials and many China analysts here are saying that the current stalemate may have a lot to do with the influence in politics of the Chinese military. ABC's Mark Litke reports from Beijing.
In times of crisis, the Chinese military always manages to reassert itself, tough and uncompromising. In 1989, the army crushed the democracy protests in Tiananmen Square. In 1996, launched missiles and war games to intimidate Taiwan. And just this year, demanded and received its biggest budget increase ever. Power, said Chairman Mao Zedong, comes from the barrel of a gun.
There's clearly a very strong contingent in the Chinese military that sees the United States as an adversary. And so this incident is playing into that ongoing debate.
While tradition here dictates that every leader must still pay homage to the military, in fact, for years, the Army has been worried and frustrated by its declining status. From the time that China's leaders decreed that to get rich was glorious, the military became increasingly irrelevant in China. In the current standoff, top Chinese generals believe that U.S. surveillance is designed to keep a close watch on China's growing capability to threaten Taiwan, a blatant interference with China's determination to win back the renegade province by force if necessary.
The military is probably now saying, in order for us to sign on to an agreement, we want some budgetary priority. We want to have some of the things that have made us unhappy about past policy rectified.
Many analysts believe, however, that China's military poses a far less threat than it seems, that its latest hardline stance is more a matter of saving face. But tough posturing and saber rattling can backfire if it lasts too long, scaring away those who want to do business with China. Business that does more than the People's Liberation Army these days to keep China strong. Mark Litke, ABC News, Beijing.
And so it continues, a resistant China and a frustrated Washington. A couple of other items in the overseas briefing today. The Pentagon has identified the 7 Americans who died when a helicopter crashed in central Vietnam on the weekend. Among them were the incoming and outgoing commanders of the U.S. military's MIA task force in Vietnam. 9 Vietnamese were also killed. In India today, former President Clinton realized a lifelong dream. He says he's always wanted to ride an elephant. When he was president, the feeling was it wasn't the best idea for a Democrat to be seen with the symbol of the Republican Party, but there he was today for a 3-minute ride at an ancient palace in northern India. When we come back, some of the other news. What happens next to the twins who were sold on the internet? The tax collectors who cannot collect, trouble at the IRS. And how do you measure an accomplishment as great as this one?
This is World News Tonight with Peter Jennings. Brought to you by Ditech.com.
Have you gotten yourself into too much credit card debt? Why not point and click your way out of your current debt with a second mortgage from Ditech.com? Whether you have equity or no equity, Ditech has a second mortgage with no closing costs to help you lower your monthly payments now. So point and click your way out of high-interest, non-tax deductible credit card debt at Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIXED right now.
There's a place where folks can get a lot of good food for not a lot of money. It's got to be Applebee's. Look at this, Applebee's Combo Barbecue. 2 barbecues on 1 plate. Our one-of-a-kind smoked riblets sharing space with 2 mesquite grilled chicken breasts. Is this heaven or what? It's got to be Applebee's. Eating good, eating good, eating good. In the neighborhood.
Whoa! Lawn weeds, huh, Pete? Yeah. Try Ortho Weed Be Gone. Kills weeds, won't harm your lawn. Guaranteed.
Didn't hurt my lawn.
Lawn weeds? Leave it to Ortho.
Why so many Days Inn hotels out there? So no matter where you're headed, you know you'll always get...
Kiss me?
A warm welcome. Days Inn. There you go.
What are you doing?
Laundry.
Laundry?
But I'm glad you're up. I've been waiting to vacuum. Breakfast. I'll pick up your tray when I get back from the market.
But it's Sunday. Aren't you going to lay around and watch football all day?
Not if I'm going to finish that roast in time for dinner.
Somebody had their Minute Maid this morning. It only takes a minute, but the feeling lasts all day.
Honey, what's the setting for chiffon?
Our national briefing tonight begins in the upper Midwest. The Red River is back. In North Dakota and Minnesota, the National Guard was helping to pile sandbags and shore up other dikes to protect against flooding. For yet another year, the heavy snow and then the rains have provided more than the Red can handle. Some of the same cities which were flooded 4 years ago are vulnerable again. Northwest Airlines has avoided a summer strike. A 4-year stalemate with its mechanics union is over. They reached a tentative contract settlement. The mechanics were about to strike about pay and pensions. just when President Bush temporarily blocked them from walking off the job. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has issued a rare safety alert today about those 15 passenger vans often used to transport church and college groups as well as commuters. Government safety investigators say that when the vans are full, they are 3 times more likely to roll over than when they are lightly loaded. The saga of the internet twins continues, and sagas can be long. A High Court judge has ruled that twin baby girls bought by a British couple over the internet must be returned to the United States. The High Court judge is in London, and so is ABC's Mike Lee.
Alan and Judith Kilshaw, who had hoped to win custody of the twins, left a London court today empty-handed and reportedly furious.
They are very disappointed with the decision. The proceedings have been a great strain for both Mr. and Mrs. Kilshaw, who want only what is in the best interest of these children.
The children, Belinda and Kimberly, are now 9 months old. The British court ruled they should be returned to Missouri, where their birth parents are fighting one another for custody. Belinda and Kimberly are known as the Internet Twins because they were offered for adoption on a website. They've already been bought and sold twice. They've had 4 separate sets of parents and guardians, and they've been the object of a publicity war.
That is a lie, ma'am.
Now the twins will be flown back to America, where they will have yet another set of temporary parents, and where more lawyers will debate their future. Mike Lee, ABC News, London.
When we come back, given what week it is, why the Internal Revenue Service is not catching the tax cheats.
Go now.
If an overactive bladder makes you go and go and go, go to your doctor and ask about new Detrol LA.
Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go.
Just one daily dose works for 24 hours to help control bladder contractions that cause those sudden urges and reduces accidents and bathroom visits.
Right now? Hey, I don't have to go.
New prescription Detrol LA. Individual results may vary. You shouldn't take it if you have certain kinds of stomach, urinary, or glaucoma problems. The most common side effects are dry mouth, constipation, abdominal pain, and headache.
And I don't have to go right now.
Ask your doctor about new Detrol LA for overactive bladder when you've always got to go.
Why are RE/MAX agents so successful at helping you buy or sell a home? They're born with it.
Identify Tudor. Correct. She'll make a splendid agent.
RE/MAX.
Oh, a new patient. How you doing?
I get a lot of new patients with fleas or ticks.
Poor baby.
Even though their owners thought they protected them. Because only one product protects cats and dogs against fleas and ticks. New Frontline Plus. It's the best. Now it provides complete flea protection. And it's the only one that also kills ticks, including the ones that carry Lyme disease.
That's cute.
New Frontline Plus. For fleas and ticks, Frontline is the veterinarian's #1 choice.
Oh, hello.
This is Janice. How can I help you, Mr. Walker?
Yes, hi. I was having a bad day today. I've had enough! I decided that I was going to get in my car and, take a drive. Anyway, I took a wrong turn.
Relax. We'll get you home.
Impala LS with 200 horsepower and, fortunately, OnStar. Chevy Impala. We'll be there.
The forces of nature are waging a war, and the target is your deck. But Thompson's Water Seal will stop them, because when others fail, Thompson succeeds, protecting your deck like no other, guaranteed. Thompson's Water Seal. It never takes a day off.
Tomorrow, a brutal dog attack, and this young woman loses her life. Now, just days before the trial begins, the victim's mother speaks out on Good Morning America tomorrow.
We're going to devote some time every night on the broadcast this week to taxes. Your taxes are due next Monday, though several million people, as always, will seek an extension. Closer look tonight at some of the troubles that the government continues to have collecting taxes. The Center for Public Integrity, which monitors government accountability, says that the federal government loses more than $200 billion a year in uncollected taxes because of poor enforcement and incompetence. A study from Syracuse University finds that while tax returns have increased 20% in the last 12 years, the IRS staff has been reduced by a third. There is no doubt that the Internal Revenue Service is struggling. Here's ABC's John Martin.
3 years ago, Congress was on the warpath about the IRS being too tough.
It is wrong to use these kind of aggressive tactics.
The IRS got the message and shifted agents out of enforcement.
We're reinventing service at the IRS.
So this year, when the Syracuse team analyzed IRS data, it found enforcement had suffered.
They're doing a lot less than they were doing last year, the year before last, 10 years ago. Audits are profoundly down.
In 1989, the IRS audited 1 of every 9 individual taxpayers who earned $100,000. But last year, it audited only 1 of every 204. In 1992, the IRS took 2,519 taxpayers to court. But last year, it filed just 641 cases. In 1992, the IRS audited just over half the largest corporations. But last year, it audited just under a third. The IRS commissioner says today's budget gives it a little more money, but still not enough.
We can't continue the kind of decline that we've had over the last 10 years. We need to turn it around.
By reducing efforts, the IRS may invite more cheating and get less revenue, say authors of a new book.
The government is not collecting all the revenue it ought to be collecting, and by its own estimates, the IRS commissioner's own estimates, it's $195 billion a year.
And there's one more IRS burden. Tax protesters who don't pay as a matter of principle.
It's unconstitutional. There's nothing in the Constitution that allows them to collect taxes from the American citizens' wages.
The old IRS would have taken Nick Jessen to court immediately. The new one has not even called. So who's at fault? A former commissioner blames Congress.
Congress mandated that IRS come down lighter on taxpayers, and indeed IRS has done just that.
The IRS insists Americans are still basically honest, but it has no way of knowing for sure and no way of finding out.
That's because Congress canceled the one program the IRS used to check whether people were paying their taxes. John Martin, ABC News, Washington.
Tomorrow night, we'll see how some of the people who thought they were having a terrific year financially are now going to be hit pretty hard by the tax man. And when we come back this evening, the anatomy of a champion, the triumph of Tiger Woods.
Eating Quaker oatmeal actually works to remove cholesterol.
It kind of gets in there, grabs that cholesterol, and
removes it.
Gets it right out of there. I'm a little partial to the soul part myself.
Why so many days in hotels worldwide? Because you might want to go to London someday. And we can't be sure.
England!
Which one? Days in. There you go.
Jolly good.
Today I made an omelet.
I picked an apple.
I sent the fax.
This is about chemotherapy and living your life. This is about Procrit. If you're a chemotherapy patient and you feel tired and weak, ask your doctor about Procrit.
I played a game.
Procrit is a natural way to regain red blood cells lost during chemotherapy. And more red blood cells can mean more strength.
I caught a fish.
Procrit is safe and effective. In studies, only diarrhea and edema occurred more often with Procrit than placebo. Procrit is for patients with non-myeloid cancers.
I went to the store.
Call now and learn how Procrit can help you get back the strength you need. Your strength for living.
Heard any good investment advice? Janice has some. Never stop asking questions. Janice had a stake in a fiber optic company. A competitor showed up and the market started selling. but Janice started listening, interviewed engineers and scientists. Was it a threat? The experts said no. Janice held its position, and so did the company. Invest and forget? Not Janice. Get there. Janice Mutual Funds.
From spring to fall, it's in the air. From the Sunshine Leagues of Florida to the schoolyards of New York to the golden fields of California, it's allergy season. So talk to your doctor about Claritin, the #1 prescribed antihistamine in America. And when the ump yells play ball, you'll be ready. Claritin, the official allergy medication of Major League Baseball. Claritin has a low occurrence of side effects such as headache, drowsiness, fatigue, and dry mouth, similar to sugar pill.
I'm Paul Lundman. Coming up next on KTUN News, prosecutors tell a gruesome story how 5 teens allegedly murdered a Redmond woman. Tonight, details on that indictment. Also tonight, at Hillsborough Max Station, the scene of a fatal accident, and protecting your position with the company. Tonight, ways to keep your job from heading out the door. KTUN News is next.
Tomorrow, you work, you get paid, you pay taxes. But some people are paying taxes on money they didn't actually get. Why, there's nothing they can do about it. Watch World News tonight.
Finally this evening, Tiger Woods. It was pretty gripping television yesterday when Tiger Woods played those last few holes of the Masters golf tournament in Georgia, winning an unprecedented 4 straight major golf tournaments. And the golf writers today are beside themselves. The chosen one, the top sportsman in the world, awesome man of the world. This morning, with all these headlines in mind, we asked ABC's Stan Harris to try measuring his accomplishment.
There it is, as grand as it gets.
With yesterday's victory, Tiger Woods firmly ensconced himself in the pantheon of sports greats.
I think it's the greatest feat I've ever known in all of sports.
Hyperbole maybe, but maybe not. Sports fans and pundits are comparing it to Joe DiMaggio's 56-game hitting streak. They say Woods is dominating golf the way Michael Jordan did basketball.
Taylor to Gretzky, he scores!
Or Wayne Gretzky hockey.
What you have to understand is that if a golfer wins 4 major titles in his life, he is assured of a place in the Hall of Fame. This guy has won 4 major titles in less than a year.
Even Woods, an avid student of golf history, seemed to understand the significance of yesterday's event.
I don't think I've ever accomplished anything that would surpass this.
So what's his edge? In a sport that punishes even the slightest lapse in concentration, Woods has nearly unshakable focus. When Woods is preparing for a shot, it's as if he's the only person on the course, the only person in the world. Take this moment on the 15th tee yesterday. He stops in mid-stroke after hearing a camera click in the crowd.
Put the cameras away, will you?
Absolutely amazing how he can stop his swing like that.
He then comes back to the tee and nails it. It's a discipline he learned as a child from his father.
Basically, you're being trained that your mind is going to be in a very particular place where you're totally consumed by the target and the shot you want to hit.
Winning 4 majors is something that none of the legends of golf, Palmer, Nicklaus, Hogan, have achieved. And bear in mind, Woods is only 25. Most golfers don't hit their stride until their 30s. Dan Harris, ABC News, New York.
That is our report on World News Tonight. Don't forget Nightline later this evening. Coming up in the remainder of the week on World News Tonight, billions of dollars being hidden from the government in tax havens, colleges recruiting more students who were schooled at home, and battling for quiet in a world polluted by noise. I'm Peter Jennings. We hope you have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Good night.
Tonight, on the season finale of Gideon's,
Get a gurney!
there are endings and beginnings.
It's time to deliver your babies.
Can't deliver at 25 weeks.
Is my dad gonna be okay?
On an all-new Gideon's Crossing, tonight at 10/9 Central on ABC.